In this pod-slice summary of the Diary of a CEO podcast, Professor Scott Galloway identifies a societal crisis impacting men, particularly in regards to wealth, mental health, and social connections. He points out that men in today's society are generally less prosperous economically and socially than their parents' generation. For example, the average age of a first-time home buyer has risen from 29 to 47, and men under the age of 40 are 24% less wealthy. Additionally, Galloway mentions that online dating is a challenging arena for men, as there's the necessity to swipe right approximately 1,000 times to get a single coffee date, inevitably leading to a lack of confidence. Importantly, Galloway notes that these challenges could lead to dangerous socio-economic situations, as the outcome of experiencing such isolation, economic struggle, and loneliness often manifests itself in elevated levels of suicide amongst men. Interestingly, Galloway argues that these societal issues should not be viewed through the lens of individual accountability, but rather as societal problems that require a collective approach to solve. He articulates that holding men solely accountable for these problems is counterproductive and that compassion is not a zero-sum game. Galloway discusses the reasons behind these challenges, tracing them to three core issues: biology, education system biases, and economic policies. In terms of biology, Galloway attributes some of the difficulties to the delayed maturation of the male prefrontal cortex compared to that of females. He suggests that the education system, comprised predominantly of female early-stage teachers, is implicitly biased against boys, often leading to higher suspension rates for the same infractions committed by girls. On the other hand, various economic policies have resulted in less wealth for those under 40, and the outsourcing of manufacturing jobs has disproportionately affected men. These elements, combined with the decrease of male role models in young men's lives due to factors like increased rates of single-parent homes and lower levels of male primary school teachers, increases the gravitas of these societal issues. Galloway emphasizes that the absence of a male role model significantly affects a boy's development and potential outcomes in life. On a personal note, Galloway shares that he was one of those young men growing up without a male role model and could have easily gone off track if not for financial aid, public universities, and the strangers who stepped into his life and offered guidance. He sees a void in addressing these challenges facing young men and sees his discourse and writings as a commercial opportunity to fill that void, driven by the alarming statistics. Galloway is determined to push for societal changes to address and rectify these issues impacting men. In his discussion with Stephen Bartlett, Professor Scott Galloway explores societal crisis and men's experiences in the facets of wealth, mental health, and social connections. Galloway points out the adverse dynamics between systematic challenges and men's prosperity, highlighting the rise in the average age of first-time home buyers from 29 to 47, and how men under 40 are 24% less wealthy compared to their counterparts in past generations. Importantly, he indicates that such isolation and economic struggle often manifest as elevations in suicide rates among men, thereby depicting a larger societal concern that calls for collective solutions without blaming men for these issues. Further in the conversation with Bartlett, Galloway identifies three major factors behind these challenges: biological differences, education system biases, and economic policies. He attributes biological factors like the comparatively delayed maturation of male prefrontal cortex to some of the difficulties men face. Moreover, Galloway states that the education system, comprised predominantly of early-stage female teachers, is biased against boys, often leading to higher suspension rates for the same misdemeanors committed by girls. On the flip side, certain economic policies and the outsourcing of manufacturing jobs expose men to greater financial drains, hence contributing to their decreased wealth. Galloway also touches upon the dramatic decrease in male role models in young men's lives due to rising rates of single-parent homes and fewer male primary school teachers. This absence of male role models poses significant implications for boys' development and future outcomes. Galloway acknowledges his personal experience of lacking a male role model while growing up and discusses the need for broader societal changes to address these men-related issues. One of the most significant risks Galloway highlights lies with artificial intelligence, AI, and the emerging trend of digital analogues of life, or low-risk relationships that often foster a sense of loneliness and depression. Galloway further projects this notion into the likely future scenario of sex bots, where men will prefer relationships with machines and dolls over other human beings. This foreseen outcome isn't but a reflection of issues younger men encounter today, such as the universal, unsupervised, and problematic encounter of porn, as well as the lack of real-world relationships and the inevitability of rejection when developing skills and human interactions. Galloway also emphasizes the need for young men to moderate their actions, especially toward their porn encounters, as one of the ways to develop their skills and bolster productive interactions with others. He advocates that the victory, or the payoff, after the 2 hours, as seen in romantic comedies, lies in facing life's challenges, including rejection, and the need to take risks, rather than opting for lower-risk alternatives. Lastly, Galloway highlights the profound implications of these issues upon women, mainly within the dating scene. He notes that the crisis amongst men is causing a crisis for women, contributing to an imbalance in the relationship ecosystem. An increasing number of women, particularly those embarking on their careers or in their 30s, have expressed frustration with current dating practices and are facing difficulty in finding prospective partners who match their standards. Galloway acknowledges that this issue reflects the continuous societal change where women are increasingly surpassing men in educational attainment and economic success and are getting taller every year metaphorically while men are getting shorter. This is reflective of the unique challenges each gender faces as society continues to evolve. In the continuation of the conversation between Stephen Bartlett and Professor Scott Galloway, they delve deeper into the implications of the societal crisis for women. Galloway notes that as women gain more socioeconomic power, the pool of compatible male partners diminishes, which Galloway refers to as Porsche polygamy. This phenomenon is driven by online dating's elimination of friction, leading to only the top 10% of men getting 80 to 880 plus per of the opportunities for short-term relationships or sex. This widespread attention results in these men being less likely to establish long-term relationships, leaving the majority of men receiving little or absolutely no interest from women. Galloway further adds that men without romantic relationships tend to have fewer friends, go out less, and are less professionally successful. The absence of a romantic partner deprives them of the added motivation to be more responsible, which Galloway asserts is fostered in a household comprising individuals with varied attributes. Cementing this point, Bartlett shares alarming data showing that the number of women over 30 living alone has risen to 35% from 12% in 1970. Additionally, the percentage of childless women over 30 has risen to 30% from 10% in 1970, evidencing the societal shifts detrimental to both men and women. In trying to paint a more hopeful picture, Galloway lays out an algorithm to financial security for young men. First, he advises finding a profession wherein they can excel and earn a steady income. He discourages chasing passions that lead towards industries with a high unemployment rate and instead advocates pursuing fields with a higher employment rate, except for a select few like Jay-Z. Secondly, Galloway recommends adopting a stoic lifestyle and living below one's means to build an army of capital. He recognizes the challenges in refraining from spending, especially with the digital marketing onslaught targeting every disposable income cent. Yet he believes that one's youth provides the vantage of living frugally. Galloway practiced this himself while at UCLA and saved enough to meet his $3,300 target. Finally, in terms of investments, Galloway advises against presuming expertise in identifying high-return individual stocks or investments, and instead recommends investing majority savings in low-cost ETFs and index funds. This advice is rooted in the principle of diversification and the power of compound growth over time. Drawing from his experience, Galloway talks about missing the power of diversification earlier, which is a common trap for most successful individuals. He emphasizes that even successful companies go down at a certain point, but patience coupled with the principles of diversification and time overcomes such short-term losses. In this segment, the discourse dives into the economic aspect of societal development. Highlighting a potential solution to the impending senior crisis, Professor Galloway introduces a unique financial plan, allocating $7,000 from the US budget to every newborn baby. If untouched or traded, this amount, when invested in a savings account or ETFs exchange-traded funds, would accumulate to $1 million by the time the baby is 65. This alludes to the potent combination of compound interest, time, and diversification. When speaking about investment strategies for beginners, Galloway insists on starting with basic steps, opening an account in investment firms like Charles Schwab or Public.com, and understanding the ropes of fund selection, taxation laws, and such. Using low-fee index funds or ETFs is advised as it provides a diversified and low-cost market exposure. Although starting small can feel insignificant, it is the starting that matters, and even small investments compound over time, providing lasting wealth. Emphasizing the power of disciplined living and saving, Galloway equates this to acquiring physical fitness, which better oneself over time. A sensitive subplot unfolds in Galloway's narrative when he opens up about his childhood and the various male role models who played a significant role in his life. He reiterates that for young men in need of guidance, the solution lies in garnering guidance from other men. Giving more attention mentor-mentee relationships helps young men perceive the world from varied perspectives. We see a turn in the conversation when the focus expands on consumerism's inherent materialism and the desire for status symbols. People's inclination towards material items as signs of wealth and success is scrutinized. Galloway believes that lasting attractiveness emanates from discipline, a well-laid plan, and a certain level of frugality. He labels the practice of portraying wealth via material items as a status game played to feel valuable within societal structures. The conversation culminates in Galloway emphasizing that chasing materialistic luxury is rooted in societal conditioning that advocates possessing the finest material items as a mark of success. He suggests that personal investment in assets that add value over time, like homes or businesses, are signs of wealth that have more depth and longevity. The podcast segment then proceeds to elaborate on the financial diversification of Professor Galloway. He discloses investing in S&P 500 funds, private companies, Ethereum, among others. Significantly, though, Galloway admits to a sort of materialistic vanity that he struggles with, revealing how he enjoys the affirmation that his financial success affords him from others. His candid revelations underscore how society's valuation of men is often tied to their economic success, leading many to incorporate status symbols in their lives, like his own use of an iPhone, as a way of reinforcing their self-worth. Discussing the theme of discipline and motivation, Stephen Bartlett and Galloway ruminate about the common struggle young people often face in their quest to remain motivated. The advice offered to overcome this dilemma steers towards a revelation of personal weaknesses and strengths, allowing them to evaluate where more investment is necessary and where some behavioral divestment would be beneficial. Their narrative then takes a turn into an exploration of the role pain typically plays in propelling one to strive for success. Galloway includes his personal experiences in the alcohol industry, making observations about society's general addictions to substances, more specifically alcohol and THC. He offers an honest perspective about successfully regulating these addictions and positively diverting focus to a career or aspiration, which his own experience illustrates. Finally, the conversation delves into a contemplation of societal design. Galloway firmly believes that societal problems like loneliness, depression, and sexlessness can be solved less complexly than believed, the impediment being the costliness of these solutions and the unwillingness of those with influence to implement changes. The solution he proposes involves a more empathetic redistribution of wealth, aimed at restoring society's expectation that each succeeding generation should fare better than the preceding one. He proposes this as an effective way to reduce societal unrest and create a more balanced society. This section expounds on Professor Galloway's perspective on how to address societal issues through wealth redistribution. By significantly raising the minimum wage, he suggests a myriad of socio-economic problems like obesity, addiction, divorce, depression, and deaths of despair could potentially be alleviated. He cites studies conducted at the University of California, Riverside and UC Berkeley that show an increase in minimum wage can significantly stimulate the economy and job growth. He further argues that investments should be made in lower and middle income individuals because unlike the top 1%, these individuals tend to spend extra income, creating a multiplier effect that fuels economic stimulation. Delving into parenthood, Professor Galloway opens up about the challenges he faces in raising two teenage boys in an ever-evolving world. He reflects on the importance of setting an example rather than resorting to preaching, revealing how he tries to model values like humility, perseverance, and respect in his daily interactions. Further into the podcast, Galloway unveils his new project, writing about masculinity. Acknowledging that his views may stir controversy, Galloway critiques the right-wing notion that masculinity equates to cruelty and dismisses the left-wing idea that men should essentially emulate women to be better. He believes that both perspectives are unsatisfactory. Examining his own definition of masculinity, Galloway puts forth three pillars: protection, provision, and procreation. He posits that protecting not just one's family but also more vulnerable communities, even ones that may not be fully understood like the trans community, is paramount. Being a provider extends beyond just financial responsibility. Supporting a partner or family member who is better at financial tasks is also crucial. Galloway highlights the importance of provision extending beyond one's immediate family ecosystem to encompass community support and philanthropy. Lastly, Galloway grapples with the pillar of procreation, which he sees as being about initiating romantic relationships. He argues that there's a difference between pursuit and predation, and thrusting onus onto men to navigate this distinction. Despite widespread fears around predatory behavior, he believes it is important for men to remain initiated in romantic relationships while emphasizing respect and consent. Galloway then confronts the online dating landscape, acknowledging its inherent flaws that predominantly disadvantage men. He urges men to focus on developing themselves, especially their intellect, kindness, and capacity to provide, as these are traditionally attractive traits to women. He concludes that true attraction lies not on surface metrics like wealth and looks, but on the many nuances that make up human sexuality. Galloway confronts the massive shift the digital age has brought to interpersonal interactions, focusing specifically on the challenges of online dating. He believes that online platforms oversimplify the complex facets of human attraction and, as a result, often disadvantage individuals who don't initially stand out in traditional metrics like income or physical attractiveness. His recommendation for individuals navigating this arena is to invest in being impressive, developing skills and traits such as a good sense of humor, physical fitness, or engaging conversation that would make a lasting impact during in-person encounters. Galloway then highlights the sharp reduction in opportunities for potential couples to meet naturally, attributing this to a rise in economic pressures and the shift from in-person to online interactions. He contentiously proposes national service as a solution, arguing that it would provide young adults with communal spaces to interact regularly and form meaningful relationships over a shared purpose. In a further critique of digital age conduct, Galloway discusses the reduced opportunities for employees to bond and form connections due to the increasing trend of remote working. There is a certain richness, he argues, in natural in-person bonds formed in an office environment. Friendships are forged, relationships bloom, and a sense of community develops, which contributes extensively to job satisfaction and retention. Galloway and Bartlett then engage in a nuanced conversation about emotions, relationships, and professional life. They agree that work relationships contribute to an individual's professional and personal growth. Galloway believes that rules regarding relationships at the workplace should be age and position specific, allowing younger and similarly aged co-workers to form relationships organically while restricting senior management due to power dynamics. He also discusses the intersecting challenges of juggling a professional career and personal life, particularly childcare. Galloway suggests the need for a new classification of employees who are caregivers, arguing they should have more flexibility given the challenges they face. He underlines the importance of showing up in person to nurture relationships and progress in one's career, despite the hardships that it entails. Reflecting on his own company, Galloway encourages his employees to foster a sense of community, offering to cover the cost if a group of them decided to socialize outside of work. Notably, he asserts that allowing personal and romantic relationships to form in workspaces benefits everyone involved, but insists upon respect and consent. The section concludes with a conversation about the evolution of work post-pandemic. Galloway appreciates the flexibility given to parents or caregivers, but encourages younger employees to be present in the office. He points out that a willingness to make sacrifices to stay connected often results in career advancement before clarifying that this conversation should be nuanced, with additional workplace flexibility provided for caregivers or individuals with specific responsibilities. In this section of the podcast, Galloway and Bartlett delve into a profound discussion about the role and impact of technology on society, particularly with regard to the influence of AI and the necessity for effective regulation. Galloway critiques tech industry leaders who call for regulation while actively working to suppress it. For instance, while people in the industry publicly call for AI regulation, they often have lobbyists in Europe working to smother such laws. Galloway labels this a simplistic strategy used by tech giants to maintain their unchecked power while projecting a facade of ethical conduct. He then warns against the potential adversarial misuse of AI in elections, predicting a misinformation lollapalooza that could be sparked by AI-generated misinformation or deep fakes designed to skew public opinion. He emphasizes the need for more aggressive regulatory oversight and resents leaving such vital decisions to the vague promises of CEOs. Galloway later takes a stance on the Universal Basic Income, UBI, debate, arguing that people fundamentally need purpose, not merely an income. He challenges the idea that AI will result in a jobless, purposeless society where everyone is receiving a UBI. Rather, he believes that AI can create more jobs and opportunities, mainly because AI's rise could make people more productive and consequently higher paid. This leads to a fascinating discussion about the transformative power of major technological advancements, like the Industrial Revolution. Just as people at the time may not have been able to imagine what industries and jobs would emerge, we too may be underestimating the potential impact of AI. By focusing on the transformative potential of AI, Galloway introduces a sense of balanced optimism into the conversation. He doesn't disregard the potential pitfalls, but he equally underscores the opportunities, such as an increased demand for new skills like programming and AI repairing, and new industries that could be the cornerstones of our future economy. Driving home this point, Galloway states, "I think AI is going to create more jobs and more opportunities than it's going to destroy. This doesn't erase the fear of AI, but certainly reframes it as an instrumental factor in driving societal evolution and progress, much like previous societal revolutions." Galloway concludes the topic by praising the power of productivity, pointing out that productivity increases will likely lead to trillions of dollars in additional value to the economy over the next decade. Contrary to the common fear of AI replacing jobs, he considers that AI could infuse the economy with more capital, leading to more spending and, consequently, jobs. After all, the wealth AI creates won't just vanish, it will circulate, creating new opportunities and industries we can't even imagine yet. Indeed, AI-induced fear often stems from our struggle to visualize the unseen future. It's easier to point at jobs that would be lost than careers that don't yet exist. Yet, as Galloway aptly noted, we have repeatedly proven ourselves capable of adapting to and benefiting from fundamental technological shifts. His refreshing arguments demand a reconsideration of the standard narrative around AI, shaping a more hopeful perspective on the road ahead of us. As the conversation continues between Stephen Bartlett and Professor Scott Galloway, the focus shifts towards Galloway's upcoming writing project on masculinity. Bartlett expresses his interest in the subject and reveals that he's also considered writing about it, given its importance in today's society. Galloway's observations and reflections on personal growth and change lead the conversation into a more personal sphere. He describes how, after frequently travelling, he finds that his children have physically grown in his absence. Drawing a parallel, he acknowledges Bartlett's impressive growth and influence in the media over the past year. This segment also casts light on Bartlett's success, crediting a large part of it to his team. Bartlett openly appreciates his team, highlighting the importance of collaboration in any successful venture. He singles out Jack, who has been with his team since the beginning, appreciating his commitment and tireless work. Bartlett credits Galloway for boosting the podcast's success after their first conversation resonated with a large audience in the United States. This points to the critical role Galloway played in widening Bartlett's listener base and influence. Galloway commendably wraps up his sentiments by acknowledging Bartlett's growth, suggesting that he has reached a tipping point and is poised for continued success. Importantly, while Bartlett is the face of the operation, he recognizes that his accomplishment wouldn't be possible without his team support. This segment underscores the significance of not only individual capacity and ambition, but also of a collective and supportive team that contributes to success. Whether it's Galloway observing his children's growth or Bartlett recognizing his team's role in his accomplishments, the conversation conveys the relevance of personal and collective evolution. Check out the full podcast by clicking the link in the description below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for listening to this podcast summary episode of The Pod Slice.